let's dive into this red pill stuff head first with this book, The Empathy Gap.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one. It's supposed to be pretty intense.
Yeah, it really goes deep into some of the challenges men are up against these days and like how society kind of just doesn't seem to get it.
Yeah, that's definitely a common sentiment in the red pill community.
Totally. And the author uses this term empathy gap, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah. What's his take on that?
Well, he basically argues that there's this huge disconnect in how society like responds to men's problems versus women's, you know.
Like we're just less sympathetic to men or something?
Exactly. And he uses some pretty powerful examples to illustrate his point.
Like what?
Right off the bat, he tells this story about a guy who's falsely accused of a crime and ended up spending years in prison before he was finally exonerated.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
Yeah, it's a really heartbreaking story, and it really makes you think about, how justice is served and who gets the benefit of the doubt when things go wrong.
Right. Like, would people have been as outraged if it had been a woman who was wrongly imprisoned?
That's exactly his point.
Yeah.
He's not saying that women don't face false accusations or that their experiences aren't valid, but he's highlighting a potential double standard in how we perceive male victims.
I can see that.
And he doesn't just rely on anecdotes, he backs it up with some pretty hard-hitting statistics.
Oh, really? Like what kind of stats?
For instance, he cites a study that found that women receive significantly shorter sentences than men for the same crimes.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, on average about 60% less time.
60% less. That's a huge difference.
Right. It really raises some questions about whether there's some bias going on within the legal system,
Like, are men being held to a different standard?
That's what he's suggesting. And it makes you think about the implications for things like divorce settlements and custody battles, where those perceptions could have a major impact on men's lives.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Definitely. And so he's saying this empathy gap goes beyond just the legal system.
Absolutely. He sees it everywhere, from mental health care to how we view masculinity in general.
Okay. I'm curious to hear more about that.
But one of the things that really jumped out at me was the statistic about male suicide rates.
Oh, yeah, that's a touchy subject.
It's a tough one, but it's something we need to talk about. Men are way more likely to die by suicide than women, even though women are diagnosed with depression at much higher rates.
So it's like a paradox.
Exactly.
Right.
And the author explores a few different explanations for this. But one of the most compelling is this idea of societal pressure on men to be strong and stoic and self-reliant.
Like the whole man up mentality.
Yeah, and he suggests that this pressure can actually prevent men from seeking help when they're struggling, even when they're dealing with serious mental health issues.
Makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like they're afraid to show any weakness.
Right. And he even argues that the very definition of mental health might be skewed towards a more feminine way of expressing emotions and coping mechanisms.
So men might not even recognize that they need help, or they might feel alienated from traditional therapy.
Exactly. And then he tells this really poignant story about a construction worker named Mike.
What happened to Mike?
Well, Mike was this hardworking guy who lost his job during an economic downturn, and he just kind of spiraled downward. He felt like he had nowhere to turn, no one to talk to about his struggles.
Oh man, that's awful.
Yeah, it's a really sad story. And it illustrates how societal pressures, combined with economic hardship and a lack of support, can create this perfect storm for men's mental health.
It's like we're setting them up to fail in a way.
That's kind of how it feels.
Yeah.
And the author's point is that if we had a better understanding of the pressures men are facing, maybe there would be more resources available, more support systems in place, less stigma surrounding men seeking help.
I think you're right. We need to start acknowledging these casualties of this societal battle,
Yeah.
men who are struggling, suffering, and even dying because they don't feel seen or heard.
Absolutely. And it's not just about mental health either. This
Yeah.
empathy gap plays a role in the education gap between men and women too.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, we all know that women are now outpacing men in college enrollment and graduation rates. But the author really digs into the potential reasons behind this trend.
What's his take on it?
He explores this idea that maybe societal expectations are subtly steering young men away from higher education, pushing them towards more vocational or trade-oriented paths.
Like we're still kind of stuck in those old school gender roles.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about how those early influences and expectations can shape men's entire lives, even their economic prospects.
Definitely. It's like we're limiting their options without even realizing it.
And then the author throws in another curveball. the potential impact of diversity initiatives and critical theory on men's experiences in academia and the workplace.
Oh boy, that's a whole other can of worms.
I know, right? It's a really sensitive topic, but it's something we need to address.
So what's his argument there?
Well, he argues that while diversity initiatives are obviously well-intentioned, they might inadvertently create systems that actually disadvantage men, particularly white men.
Like,
He suggests that the focus on promoting certain groups could lead to a neglect of men's issues and concerns, even create an environment where men feel uncomfortable speaking up or challenging the prevailing narratives.
I've definitely heard that sentiment before. Like, men are afraid to speak their minds for fear of being labeled sexist or something.
Exactly. And he asked this really provocative question. When was the last time you saw a men's studies section in a university library?
I don't think I've ever seen one.
Right. It makes you stop and think about whose voices are being amplified and whose are being marginalized in these discussions.
It's all about perspective, isn't it?
Totally. He's not saying that we shouldn't strive for equality or that women haven't faced real discrimination, but he's challenging us to consider whether the pendulum has swung too far in one direction, potentially creating new forms of inequality in the process.
It's like we're trying to solve one problem but creating another one in the process.
It's a complex issue, and there are no easy answers. But the author's point is that we need to be more aware of the potential unintended consequences of well-intentioned policies and make sure that we're not sacrificing one group's needs in the name of helping another.
I think that's a fair point.
And that leads us to another potentially controversial topic, feminism.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Now, before anyone gets defensive, let me just say that we're not here to bash feminism or any other movement. Our goal is to understand the arguments presented in the source material and encourage critical thinking.
Right, so let's hear what he has to say.
Okay, so the author doesn't shy away from critiquing what he calls radical feminism. He argues that some branches of feminism, particularly those with a more militant or anti-male stance, might actually be contributing to the very problems he's trying to address.
Interesting. So what kind of examples does he give?
He points to things like the portrayal of men as inherent predators in discussions about sexual assault, or the argument that certain laws like the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA, are inherently biased against men even when they're the victims.
That's a pretty bold statement.
It is. And he's not saying that women don't experience violence or discrimination, but he's suggesting that we need to be careful about painting all men with a broad brush, and we need to be mindful of the potential for false accusations and the damage they can inflict.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing the complexities of the issue.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, and the author acknowledges that. But he's urging us to have a more open and honest conversation about these issues, one that doesn't shy away from difficult truths or uncomfortable perspectives.
I can get behind that.
He believes that by acknowledging the full spectrum of human experience, the good, the bad, and the messy, we can start to bridge the divide between genders and create a society where everyone feels valued and respected.
That's a great goal. I think we could all agree on that.
Absolutely. And that's really what this deep dive is all about, exploring these complex issues and trying to understand the different perspectives involved.
Sounds like we've got a lot more to unpack.
We do. We've only just scratched the surface. In the next segment, we're going to delve even deeper into the historical and societal forces that the author believes have contributed to this empathy gap and the challenges men face today.
Can't wait. I'm ready to go deeper.
Me too. This is where things get really interesting. Okay, so we talked about this empathy gap, but where does it actually come from? Is it something new or does it go way back?
Yeah, the author actually takes us on this kind of crazy trip through history to look at how, what's expected of men has changed over time. I mean, over centuries even.
So he's saying it's not just a modern thing.
Right. He argues that for most of history, men were seen as expendable.
Yeah.
You know, the warriors, the protectors, the ones who sacrificed themselves for everybody else.
That's kind of bleak.
It is. And he gives some pretty intense examples like male conscription, where men were forced to fight in wars whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah, that's a pretty stark example of how men's lives were often considered less valuable than women's, especially during times of conflict.
Exactly. He traces this attitude all the way back to ancient civilizations, where men were sent off to battle while women stayed home to take care of things.
So it's like this deeply ingrained pattern.
Right, and he says it's a pattern that's repeated throughout history, from the Roman legions to World War I and II.
And even though we don't really have conscription anymore, he argues that this underlying belief that men are expendable still exists today.
Yeah, he points to the fact that men are still way more likely to work in dangerous jobs like construction or mining or law enforcement.
It's true, those are pretty risky professions.
Yeah, and they're the ones society expects to take those risks, put their lives on the line, often without much reward or even recognition.
It's like their sacrifices are just expected.
Right. And he ties this back to the empathy gap, saying that this historical devaluation of men's lives might be one reason why we're less likely to empathize with their struggles today.
Wow, that's a really interesting connection. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much of our current gender dynamics are just echoes of these ancient patterns.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's not just about war and dangerous jobs then.
No, he also talks about how these historical expectations of masculinity have affected how men relate to money and power.
Oh, that's interesting.
How so? Well, he brings up the topic of taxation and argues that men actually bear a much bigger share of the tax burden.
Oh, really? I always hear about the wage gap, but I guess there's a tax gap too.
Yeah, and he cites statistics showing that men pay more in income tax, property tax, even sales tax.
Even though women are working more and earning more these days.
Exactly. And he suggests that this might be because of that old expectation that men are the providers, the ones who are supposed to financially support their families.
Makes sense. A lot of guys still feel that pressure.
Definitely. And it's not just about how much money men are paying in taxes. He also looks at how that tax revenue is distributed.
So where's all that money going?
Well, he argues that women are often the primary beneficiaries of social programs and welfare systems.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, and he even suggests that this financial imbalance shows up in divorce settlements where women often receive alimony and child support payments that put even more of a financial burden on men.
It's like a double whammy.
Right. And he acknowledges that it's a complex issue with a lot of factors involved, but he's raising some important questions about fairness and equality and unintended consequences.
It's definitely something to think about for sure.
Absolutely. And then finally, he tackles one of the biggest differences between men and women, the lifespan gap.
Yeah, it's no secret that women tend to live longer than men.
Right, but the author digs into the reasons behind this and looks at both biological and societal factors.
Okay, so what does he say?
Well, he starts with the biological stuff like heart disease, testosterone levels, and the fact that men have higher rates of cancer.
Those are some pretty significant factors for sure.
Yeah, but he doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
He argues that societal expectations also play a huge role.
Like how?
Well, the pressure on men to be tough, to hide their emotions, to engage in risky behavior, all of that takes a toll on their physical and mental health.
It's like they're constantly running on fumes.
Right. And he even points to studies showing that married men tend to live longer than single or divorced men.
So having a partner can actually be good for your health.
Yeah, but he emphasizes that it has to be a supportive, loving partnership, not a strained or combative one.
Makes sense. I guess a bad relationship would have the opposite effect.
Exactly. And so, again, this brings us back to the empathy gap and how we need to understand the pressures men are facing.
Like if we want to address things like male suicide and mental health and even the lifespan gap, we have to start with the root causes.
Right. We need to look at the societal expectations and pressures that are contributing to these problems.
It's like we're expecting them to fight a battle without giving them the right tools or support.
Yeah, and the author argues that men are facing a real crisis of identity in the modern world.
What does he mean by that?
Well, he says traditional roles are changing, expectations are shifting, and a lot of men feel lost and unsure about where they fit in.
I can see that. It's like the old rules don't apply anymore, but we haven't really figured out the new ones.
Right. And he suggests that this identity crisis might be at the heart of a lot of the issues we're seeing. From the high suicide rates to substance abuse to violence.
It's like they're searching for something to hold on to.
Yeah, and he says we need to rethink what it means to be a man in the 21st century.
So it's not about clinging to outdated stereotypes or suppressing your emotions.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between strength and vulnerability, independence, and connection, competition, and cooperation.
I like that. It's about embracing all aspects of what it means to be human.
Right, and it's about recognizing that men have unique needs and challenges, and those need to be addressed.
Not ignored or dismissed.
Exactly. And this isn't just about men either. It's about creating a society where everyone, regardless of gender, can thrive and reach their full potential.
I think that's a goal we can all get behind. Okay, so we've talked about all these problems, but what can we actually do about it? Where do we even start?
Well, the author doesn't pretend to have all the answers, but he does offer some ideas.
Okay, I'm listening.
I think his biggest point is that we have to at least acknowledge that there is a problem. You know, we can't keep pretending that men don't face unique challenges or that their struggles are somehow less important than women's.
Yeah, it's about shifting that perspective, right? Like
Yeah.
men's issues are everyone's issues.
Exactly. He's saying true equality means taking care of everyone in society, not just focusing on one group and ignoring the other.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Hmm.
And he also talks about how important it is to have these open and honest conversations about this stuff, even if it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, we can't fix anything if we're too afraid to even talk about it.
Right. So, like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, he encourages men to speak up about their experiences, you know, to challenge those stereotypes that are holding them back.
So, like, stop trying to be this strong, silent type all the time.
Right. And he also says we need more support systems that are made for men specifically, like mental health resources, fatherhood programs, groups where men can connect and share what they're going through.
Yeah, places where they feel safe to actually be vulnerable and express their emotions and ask for help.
Exactly. He wants to create spaces where that's okay.
I like that. And he also challenges all of us to rethink how we define masculinity and success.
Yeah, we need to move past those old ideas of what it means to be a real man and be more open to different ways of being a man.
Like, it's okay to be strong and sensitive at the same time.
Exactly. It's about being your authentic self, no matter what that looks like.
And he even suggests that this shift in perspective could be good for women too.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, he says that a society that supports men's emotional well-being and encourages them to be more involved fathers would just create a better environment for everyone.
Yeah, it makes sense. If everyone's happier and healthier, it benefits everyone.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those rigid gender roles that limit all of us.
And ultimately, what he's calling for is a more empathetic and compassionate approach to how we treat each other, you know, men and women alike.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to remember that this isn't about men versus women.
Right. It's about recognizing that we're all connected and that what affects one gender affects us all.
We're all in this together. And the author's work has really started some important conversations.
Definitely. And it's up to all of us to keep exploring these ideas and, you know, challenge our own assumptions and try to create a better world for everyone.
Well said. And if you're interested in learning more about the author's ideas and diving deeper into this stuff, we highly recommend checking out his book, The Empathy Gap.
You can find it on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books.
It's a really thought-provoking read that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about gender and society.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a great conversation.
I agree. And we hope it's giving you some new things to think about.